Heat checker.
Cunningham.
Get her the ball. Get her the ball. One more time. Cross. A logo again.
Oh, no. Oh.
She's back.
Oh my God!
Dynamic
This isn't real.
player in the game.
What?
9
No.
points in 38 seconds for
No.
Caitlin. She hit all 3 threes. And not only 9 and 30,
What's
but
going
look
on?
at the depth
I
on
don't know.
these field goal
living-
attempts. She's certainly feeling
Oh
it.
my God.
Left side.
I'm
Right
speechless.
side.
No.
Now come back to your favorite spot
Oh.
again. It doesn't
Oh.
matter.
9 points, 38 seconds, 1 player. What Caitlin Clark did on June 14th wasn't just impressive, it was historic. Against the undefeated defending champions, the New York Liberty, Clark didn't just return from injury, she erased their dominance in less than a minute. This wasn't just a basketball game. This was a statement, a warning shot to the entire WNBA, and it started with a logo 3.
Caitlin pulls left wing, the right wing, 30-plus feet. Logo crosses over. Watch it. Oh, my goodness. She is back.
I think you're just excited more than anything. It gets kind of difficult when you prepare for a game. Obviously, when I'm on the bench, still knowing the scout, knowing everything that the other team's going to do, and still trying to mentally prepare and go through everything like I'm going to play, even though I knew I wasn't going to play. So, doing that, but also knowing I was going to be able to be active today, I think gives you a little extra juice. So I'm certainly excited just to get back out there, get playing, and really good opportunity for us at home here, coming off of a loss. So it's a big game.
Before Caitlin Clark even touched the ball, this game was already written off as a blowout. Why? Because the New York Liberty weren't just winning, they were dominating. They came into this matchup undefeated, sitting at a perfect 9-0, and they weren't squeaking by with last-second wins. They were steamrolling teams. Game after game, they made other professional athletes look like they didn't belong on the court. You'd tune in hoping to see a battle, but by the second quarter, it was usually a massacre. Coaches gave up, players looked shell-shocked, fans started leaving early. This team had everything. A finals MVP in Brianna Stewart, who could torch defenders from anywhere on the floor. A shooting wizard in Sabrina Ionescu, casually knocking down 30-footers like it was warm-up. And Jonquel Jones, the anchor inside, turning elite centers into traffic cones. Together, they played like a well-oiled machine. Disciplined, fearless, and relentless. And it wasn't just talent, it was mental domination. Opposing teams would show up confident and leave looking confused. The Liberty crushed the soul out of you, not just the score. Commentators were asking, can they go 20-0? Analysts weren't talking about if the Liberty would win, but how long they could keep the streak alive. This was the dynasty in the making. The team nobody wanted to face. The team nobody could figure out. Until one player stepped on the court and broke everything they'd built. While the Liberty were flying high, the Indiana Fever were just trying to stay afloat. Coming into this matchup, their record was a forgettable 4-5. They weren't dominating headlines. They weren't blowing out teams. And without Caitlin Clark for 5 straight games due to a quad strain, they looked average at best. They had talent, sure, but rhythm, chemistry, identity, still missing. Every time they seemed to take a step forward, they'd stumble. They had the youngest roster in the league. The rotations were shaky. The offense was inconsistent. No one, not even die-hard Fever fans, could say they expected Indiana to pull off an upset, especially not against the undefeated defending champs. Most analysts called this one before tip-off. Another win for the Liberty. Another headline about how New York looked championship ready. Another night where Caitlin Clark would take some time to ease back in. But Caitlin? She didn't come back to ease in. She came back to take over. Her teammates didn't walk into Gainbridge Fieldhouse, hoping to keep it close. They walked in with a silent chip on their shoulder, tired of being written off, tired of being treated like background noise in someone else's highlight reel. And when Clark finally checked in, the atmosphere shifted. The crowd didn't just cheer, they roared. Phones came out. Everyone leaned forward. Something was coming. And it came fast, because just when it looked like the Liberty were about to run away with another win, Caitlin Clark said, "Not tonight." With just over a minute left in the first quarter, the Liberty were already up by 11 points. Business as usual. They looked comfortable, confident, in control. It felt like just another step on their perfect season cruise. Then Caitlin Clark happened. She caught the ball near the wing, deep, way beyond the three-point line. Most players would have looked to pass. She pulled up. Splash. Okay, cool. She's feeling it. The Liberty bring the ball back down. Go through the motions, miss. Here comes Clark again. This time, she walks right into another bomb. Same range, different angle. Swish. Again. Now the crowd's waking up. 2 threes in 20 seconds. Okay, This might actually be something. But then, the moment that made jaws drop and social media explode. Clark catches it near the logo, 34 feet out, not even squared up, barely set. She launches. Network again. 9 points, 38 seconds. Tie game. Gainbridge Fieldhouse erupted. Fans were jumping out of their seats like they'd just witnessed a buzzer beater. But this wasn't a game winner. This was a first quarter kill shot. The Liberty didn't just lose a lead, they lost control. Their 11-point cushion, gone in a flash. Their momentum, vaporized. You could see it in their faces. The swagger was replaced by confusion. Stewart looked at the bench like, what do we do? Ionescu shook her head. Even the Liberty's coaching staff started scrambling for answers. This wasn't just 3 made shots. It was a psychological nuke. The defending champs had prepared for Caitlin Clark. They'd watched her film. They'd diagrammed plays. They thought they knew what she could do. They didn't have a clue. You'd think that kind of explosion, 9 points in 38 seconds, would be the peak. It wasn't even close. By halftime, Caitlin Clark had already racked up 25 points, the most she had ever scored in a single half, and she made it look effortless. Dribble, pull-up, network step back from the wing, network transition 3 with a hand in her face, still net. She wasn't just hot, she was in another dimension. But the second half, that's where things got unreal. She kept cooking the Liberty from the same ridiculous range over and over again. They threw double teams, switched defenders, even tried face guarding her. It didn't matter. Clark finished the game with 30 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, and 7 made 3-pointers. Let's pause there. That combination, 38-9 with 7 threes, no one in the history of the WNBA had ever done it. Not Taurasi, not Maya Moore, not Sue Bird, not Candace Parker. Nobody. And speaking of Parker, Clark officially passed her that night too. Candace had 2 games in her first 2 seasons with 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Clark now has 3. Let that sink in. She just passed a 2-time MVP and 7-time All-Star. But we're still not done. Clark became the 4th fastest player in WNBA history to reach 850 career points, doing it in just 45 games. For reference, Cynthia Cooper did it in 38 games. Simone Augustus did it in 39. Diana Taurasi took 56. She's already shoulder to shoulder with some of the most legendary scorers the game has ever seen. And here's the kicker. Clark now has 9 games where she either scored or assisted on 50-plus points. Diana Taurasi, the GOAT, needed 565 games to reach 10 of those. Caitlin has 9 in just 45. She's not just ahead of schedule, she's bending the timeline. What made this night legendary wasn't just Caitlin Clark dropping records like mixtapes. It was the fact that the Indiana Fever didn't just win, they broke the Liberty's system. The same Liberty squad that steamrolled 9 straight opponents, crushed all-star lineups, and looked like they were coasting to another finals, completely unraveled. And it wasn't just because of Clark's logo range bombs. This was a team-wide ambush, and it was masterfully executed. From the jump, the Fever made one thing clear. We're not playing your game anymore. You're playing ours. They slowed down the Liberty's pick-and-roll attack, the very engine that had shredded defenses all season. They switched smarter. They rotated faster. They collapsed on mismatches that usually led to automatic points. Every Liberty strength neutralized. Brianna Stewart, who usually feasts in isolation and mid-post touches, was bumped double, denied space. Jonquel Jones denied position on nearly every entry pass. And Sabrina Ionescu, arguably the smartest floor general in the league, looked rushed, even flustered. She couldn't find open shooters, couldn't get comfortable, couldn't shift momentum. Every set the Liberty ran looked one step slower. Every drive met a wall. Every kick-out pass arrived just a little late. And in the WNBA, that's the difference between a wide-open 3 and a broken possession. It wasn't just defense either. Offensively, the Fever were like a swarm of coordinated chaos. Fast, sharp, unselfish. They didn't just rely on Clark to save them every possession. They ran off-ball screens, made hard cuts, swung the ball until the Liberty were dizzy trying to rotate. It was as if Indiana had spent the last 5 games secretly building toward this exact moment. Even timeouts didn't help New York. They'd regroup, draw up a counter, and Clark would walk right out of it and hit another 3 from 32 feet. The Liberty looked stunned, not just physically, but mentally cracked. This was the blueprint. Stifle their strengths, attack their weaknesses, and hit them with a superstar who makes impossible shots look routine. The Liberty walked into Gainbridge Fieldhouse, looking like a dynasty. They walked out looking for answers. Caitlin Clark may have lit the spark, but this fire, it was a 5-alarm blaze powered by the entire Fever roster, because what made this game so dangerous for New York wasn't just the superstar. It was that every Fever player leveled up at the exact same time. Lexi Hull, the sharpshooter. Nobody saw coming first up Lexi Hull. She came in quietly under the radar. Not the headline, not the spotlight, but by the end of this game, she was a stat sheet monster. Career highs across the board. Points, rebounds, assists, steals. She was everywhere. You needed a hustle play? Lexi dove. You needed a big 3 to quiet a Liberty run? run, Lexi drained it. You needed a defensive stop, Lexi delivered. And here's the thing. Her off-ball movement gave Clark the breathing room she needed. By hitting those open shots, Hull forced the Liberty to stretch, and suddenly, the court opened up like a freeway. When Lexi Hull is dialed in, she's not just a role player. She's a problem. Aaliyah Boston, the big, who plays like a guard. Then there's Aaliyah Boston, a second-year center who might be the most intelligent post player in the league right now. She's currently the only center in the WNBA, averaging more than 4 assists per game. You read that right. This is a 6'5" beast in the paint who passes like she's running point. Against New York, her vision was deadly. Backdoor dimes, high-low connections, no-look handoffs. When she got the ball in the high post, the Liberty defense froze because they didn't know whether she was going to shoot, drive, or hit a cutter slicing behind them. And defensively, Boston battled with Jonquel Jones, one of the most physical centers in the league, and held her ground. Blocked shots, altered layups, forced tough looks. Her presence gave the Fever interior stability, and her passing turned the offense into a symphony. Kelsey Mitchell, the silent assassin. Let's talk about Kelsey Mitchell, the Fever's silent assassin. She dropped 22 points, but it wasn't just the number. It was when she scored them. Every time the Liberty tried to mount a comeback, every time they hit a three and looked like they might go on a run, Mitchell answered. Sometimes it was a slashing layup through traffic. Other times, a cold-blooded step-back three. But every time, it was timely. Her scoring took pressure off Clark and forced the Liberty to pick their poison. Double Caitlin? Mitchell's open. Collapse on Mitchell? Now Caitlin's cooking again? This duo? Scary. Sydney Colson, the steady hand. And while the Stars were doing their thing, Sydney Colson came in and handled business. 10 points, 6 assists, 0 fear. She didn't try to overdo it, didn't force shots. She just made the smart play every single time. When Clark sat, Colson ran the show like a veteran quarterback. She calmed the offense, controlled the tempo, made sure the ball moved. Colson's poise was exactly what Indiana needed to keep the pressure on when the starters rested. A total team explosion. This wasn't a Caitlin Clark and friends situation. This was a roster clicking into perfect sync, with every gear spinning in unison. The Fever didn't win because Clark dropped 30. They won because everyone showed up. The stars starred, the role players rose, and the Liberty had no answer. This was team basketball at its most dangerous. We've talked about the Liberty's collapse. We've talked about the Fever's rise. But now let's talk about what this really means for Caitlin Clark. Because what happened on June 14th wasn't just one amazing game. It was a warning to the rest of the league, to the record books, to history itself. Caitlin Clark is coming for all of it. Let's start with this. She became the 4th fastest player in WNBA history to reach 850 career points. It took her just 45 games. The only players ahead of her, Cynthia Cooper, 38 games, Simone Augustus, 39 games, Simone Augustus, 39 games, Clark, 45, Diana Taurasi, 56. Think about that. Taurasi is the league's all-time leading scorer. She needed more than a full season to get where Caitlin arrived in a few months. And Clark's not just scoring, she's creating. She now has 9 games where she's scored or assisted on 50-plus points. Read that again, 9. Want to know how many games Diana Taurasi needed to get to 10? 565? Caitlin's at 9 in 45. If this pace holds, she's going to shatter that record before she even hits her 60th career game. And it's not just about one stat. This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't one hot night. This is a pattern. This is trajectory. Clark has already passed Candace Parker for the most games with 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in a player's first 2 seasons. Parker had 2, Clark 3. And while most rookies go through growing pains, Clark has only gotten more dangerous. Her range has stretched, her vision has sharpened, her passing, already elite, is now dissecting defenses like a surgeon. This is more than just records. It's about rewriting expectations. Every time Caitlin Clark steps on the court, she's not just trying to win a game, she's raising the bar for what a rookie can be. She's speeding through milestones at a pace we've never seen. And if she keeps this up, we won't be talking about the best rookie seasons in WNBA history. We'll be talking about the best seasons, period. When the final buzzer sounded, the scoreboard read Indiana Fever 102, New York Liberty 88. That wasn't just a win. It was a message to the Liberty, to the WNBA, to every coach, every analyst, every player who still thought the Fever were too young, too raw, too early in their rebuild. That message, we're done waiting. Let's be clear. New York didn't play badly. They still scored 88 points. They had their stars on the floor. They had every reason to think they'd walk out with another W. But they ran into something they hadn't faced all season. A team that refused to flinch. A team that took their best punches and responded with haymakers. Clark dropped 30. Hull had the best game of her career. Boston controlled the paint and the passing lanes. Mitchell hit every dagger. Colson calmed every storm. This wasn't luck. This wasn't one hot shooting night. This was the Fever finally clicking and showing us all what their ceiling really is. And now they're 5-5. Not eye-popping at first glance until you realize they just became the first team in 2025 to take down the Liberty. They now now hold first place in the Eastern Conference Commissioners' Cup standings. And more importantly, they have proof that they can go toe-to-toe with the best team in the league. And not just survive, dominate. The league was already buzzing about Caitlin Clark. Now, it's buzzing about the Indiana Fever. This game flipped the script. It changed the conversation from, can Caitlin adjust to the W, to who's going to stop her? And how do you guard this team when everyone's firing like this? Because the truth is, this wasn't just Caitlin Clark's return. This was a declaration of war on the league's power structure. The Liberty aren't untouchable anymore. And the Fever, they're no longer rebuilding. They're here. This game didn't just end a winning streak, it ended an illusion. For weeks, the WNBA had one clear storyline. The Liberty were untouchable. The Fever were still figuring it out. Caitlin Clark was impressive, but not quite there yet. On June 14th, that entire narrative was obliterated. In just 4 quarters, Caitlin Clark rewrote the record books, shattered a perfect season, and dragged her team, not across the finish line, but straight into contender status. She didn't come back quietly. She came back with fire in her eyes and history in her hands. And she made one thing very, very clear. This league belongs to no one anymore. The Indiana Fever weren't supposed to be here, not yet. But when the lights were brightest and the defending champs were licking their lips, the Fever flipped the switch. And they didn't just win a game, they sent out a blueprint for dominance. Stars rise, role players elevate, defense suffocates. The league watches. Caitlin Clark didn't just return from injury. She returned like a storm. She didn't just make shots. She made statements. She didn't just compete with the best, she's beating them faster than anyone before her. And now, the 2025 WNBA season just got a whole lot more interesting. If this is what Indiana looks like when it's clicking, if this is what Caitlin Clark looks like with momentum, then the rest of the league better stop underestimating. Because something is brewing in Indiana. Something dangerous. Something unstoppable. The era has begun, and Caitlin Clark is holding the pen. If you're fired up for the Fever's rise and Clark's takeover, smash that like button and drop CC Record Breaker in the comments right now. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another jaw-dropping performance. Because this was just chapter 1. Click the video on your screen to see what happened the last time Clark left the league speechless. We'll see you there.